You may have noticed the Calhoun County Administrator, Kelli Scott, provides an update that appears in the Shopper from time to time. And so we asked her to come by and talk to us about the latest update, and we'll talk a little bit about those details now with she and with Calhoun County Board Chair Derek King. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, Richard.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming today. Thank you for helping me with my watch batteries, Derek.
Hey, whatever I can do.
I had 2 watches quit at the same time, and that was kind of odd, and both was wearing the watches on 2 different days, and both times I had put them on and come to work and looked down and realized this watch is not working. And then it happened again, and it seems so odd that the timing is like that.
It just seems like they talk to each other.
They must. They must have had a pact or something. Oh, well. All right, so county has a number of things going on right now, Kelli, and maybe we should talk about jobs first. That's always what folks want to know about.
Yeah,
There are some positions open.
Yeah, the reason that I wanted to highlight job openings in this update, the latest update, is just to highlight that the county is a really good employer. So we're not one of the largest, but we have about 650 employees or positions. And I don't know if people who are looking to switch jobs or who are in the market for a new job or considering career paths necessarily think of county government as a place that they might want to work.
Mm-hmm.
We have job openings just in general from time to time due to retirements and other, just like every other employer, but we have job openings right now from everything from clerical to accounting to a high-level legal position. So no matter what your career path might be, because the county is so diverse in the services that we provide, we're actually a great place to work. One of the things we always talk about with our commissioners, even when budgets are tight, is the strategy that we call valuing our employees. And so we don't just say that, we put actions behind those words. When I first got here about 8 years ago, there were things like travel bans for employees and wage freezes and hiring freezes and no educational assistance for people wanting to further their higher education. We had no real wellness program to speak of. Not much money for training was in the budget. And I know times were tight. Well, guess what? They're still tight. And yet our commissioners have been very supportive of policy changes. We have our new Employee Health and Wellness Center that makes it very convenient and in most cases free for employees to get health care. We have a much more robust wellness program, in-house training. We have, some pretty good yet cost-effective benefits. So instead of trying to focus on balancing our budget by taking things away from those who we charge with serving people, we figure out how to do it better and smarter and more cost-effective. So we're very proud of that and would encourage anyone to consider jobs with the county.
These kinds of things that you talk about are sort of accoutrement to what people look for when they want to know what a salary is and that sort of thing. They look at these other things too. These are competitive things you talk about.
They are, and we listen to our employees. We have a wonderful human resources director, Kim Archambault. So, from time to time we'll hear, employees, I'm feeling that employees are stressed. Let's put a training program together about stress. Or, we're implementing all this new technology and change is difficult. So we'll, switch gears and maybe focus on how to manage during change. This year, the courts told us that, they'd really like to consider an early retirement incentive for the group of people that they think might be ready to retire and just need a little bit of encouragement in the form of lump sum payments. And what that does is, it gives us an opportunity to look at reorganization, to help people make those decisions when it's time to retire, and it allows for some financial savings for the county. So we listen to those with our elected officials and with the Board of Commissioners. We did a wage study last year just to make sure that we're offering competitive wages, and we're making adjustments in accordance with that. So I can't say enough how strategies like wellness are not just about, being nice, but they're really a business strategy. It's about the bottom line, and we really value our employees to be engaged so that when you, the public, come to interact with the county, you're getting, hopefully, happy and satisfied employees who really are looking out for your best interest.
Kelli Scott is here, Calhoun County Administrator, and Board Chair Derek King, too. It's interesting what Kelly was talking about with the employment numbers, and you're constantly watching that as commissioners and the overall budget. But she was saying, some of these things we couldn't offer before, now we can, but doesn't mean the overall budget stresses have changed, but we managed to figure it out.
No, we have. And like Kelly said, one of the ways that we do that is by managing open positions and hiring the ones that we need and not hiring the ones that we can wait on. Also, some of those more senior folks are going to make more money than the newer folks, so it's kind of a win-win. Mm-hmm. But, it's the real issue is we have rising cost as it relates to health care, as it relates to employee benefits, employee wages. But with Proposal A and the property tax rules, property taxes, which fund is a majority of our funding, is only allowed to go up by the cost of living. Mm-hmm. So when the cost of living is low, and then we're negotiating and the wages are going up a little bit more than the cost of living in most cases, especially with our collective bargaining units and whatnot, it makes it difficult because it gives you a revenue shortage. So it's always a challenge. Kelly and her team have done a great job putting money away each year in our rainy day fund, if you will. Our bond rating is only second to only Oakland County in the state of Michigan, which that is a huge deal when it comes to bonds and financing money for capital improvements and whatnot. So the administration's done a great job, and we also have in my opinion, a superior purchasing team that's, of course, under Kelly's leadership, but it's led by Brad Wilcox. And I tell you what, they will procure paper clips and staples and paper and you name it, and they will squeak a penny wherever they can out of anything that they need to buy.
Bond rating second only to Oakland County. And Oakland County is sort of one of the role models around here, isn't it? Because what do they have, the largest property tax base in the state or something in Oakland County? So it's kind of nice to be neighbors with them, so to speak, like with things like that.
Right. One of the things that the bond rating agencies look for is your reserve balance, and Oakland County is just so large that no other county in this state and most of other states are ever going to be able to achieve the AAA bond rating, but we have a AA, and it allows us to save taxpayer dollars when we do finance capital projects, which I would say is another strategy that we have been very good at deploying in order to save costs. So we've done energy savings improvements where we're investing up front in upgrading our facilities, saving on the energy usage and on utility costs going forward. So there's a return on investment there, as well as technology. We're in the middle of implementing a county-wide system that allows us to scan documents and workflow them around the county with various departments without shuffling paper. So we just overall, our budget committee, which Commissioner King chairs the budget committee, and also Commissioner Kathy Sue, Vetti, formerly Kathy Sue Dunn, she just got married, and Commissioner Carla Reynolds, who's new this term, are on the budget committee, and we've started already for next year. We always focus on a long-term budget strategy and not just, what can we cut right now to get through this year or to get through next year. We look at the long-term overall investment, and it has worked fairly well for us.
Yeah, it's easier to work long-term sometimes than it is to try and figure out what you're going to do today to fix a problem, right? So roads are jobs, roads, the buzzwords we've been talking about today. And the roads part of this is a constant thing, isn't it? Always looking at where the money comes from and what roads are next. Is that true?
It is true, and it's a constant challenge for us. And we disbanded the road commission with that sunsetting law in Lansing that they had a few years back. I guess it's been almost 4 years now, and we just spend a lot of time on roads. Kelly spends a lot of time on roads. Our whole staff spends a lot of time on roads. That is very important. It's the biggest hot button. And, a lot of folks might not realize that we have 1,300 miles of road that we maintain in the county. And we have a higher percentage of blacktop roads, opposed to gravel roads. Mm-hmm. So there's a number of things that go into it compared to other counties. And there's really a screwed up formula on how counties get funded. So say we get 8 million with 1,300 miles of road, another county might get 14 million with 1,300 miles of road because they have more population, when really it's not the cars that are tearing up the roads, it's the trucks and this kind of thing. So it's really a screwed up process, but we, do what we can. The big thing is now we have some townships that have really stepped up and partnered with the county. There's been a big, robust push for roads in Bedford and Penfield. Convis is coming on board, Fredonia, Sheridan. All these places are starting to really look at how can we partner with the county, and under Act 51, there's a partnership that's needed, and get those roads fixed. And I'm happy to say in the last couple years, we've improved over 15% of our entire road system in 2 years. That's a huge milestone, and I attribute it to Kelli and her leadership, and Christopher Bolt over at the road department that's been able to have this vision and see some of these projects through.
So the update that you provided to the shopper says $25 million for roads, Kelli. Was that that's a pretty steep number, but it's needed, right?
So along the lines of, focusing on the long term and managing resources, as Derek mentioned, we have so much more local participation by our local townships, which is required by Act 51, which is the statute that governs what road agencies can do and how they get their funding. That limits the amount that counties can pay to improve the local roads. So more of the subdivision, not the primary roads, but the local roads, to 50%. And just because of the way that our budget shakes out, our policy is that the county will pay up to 30%, or our new policy creates a new tier that if townships are able to get a millage and get money from taxpayers to the tune of about 3 mills or an equivalent special assessment, we will increase our match to 50%. So we're very much in growth mode in response to, we know that it takes a variety of funding sources. We look at counties like Allegan that have a countywide millage and local millages, and there's all kinds of comparisons that show it really just takes all hands on deck to provide funding. So one of the benefits of having our county road department as a department of the county and not a standalone road commission is we're able to leverage the financing ability, the strong bond rating, and our debt capacity, and just legal powers that counties have that road commissions don't to finance long-term fixes on roads. So while we're gearing up for the increasing funding from the state, the new road package that was approved by the legislature last year is starting to come to us. We got our first increased payments this year, and it will increase the county's state funding for roads by 65% over the next 5 years. So we're in growth mode, and what we're proposing is that instead of just using our short-term operating budget to continue to patch potholes, we still will do winter maintenance out of that, but it just makes more sense in talking with our financial advisors to use a longer-term financing method when we talk about paving and longer-term fixes that should last for many, many years. So matching long-term funding with long-term assets, and then focusing our short-term revenues on the ongoing maintenance. So our managing director, Christopher Bolt, has been working closely with our townships and prioritizing roads and putting together a list of what would it take to make sure that we have the necessary funding for the county's match portion, and also for the primary roads, which are 100% our responsibility.
Right.
We're just focusing a lot more on the long-term fixes versus pothole patching. And if we can get ahead of the curve, that's really the only way that we can make a difference. When we look at the townships that Derek mentioned, Bedford and Penfield, we can look at our pothole patching budget before and after, and there really is a savings there because of that comprehensive approach to put fixes on the road. So the high number that we're looking at is $25 million. It would fund all capital projects through the road department for the next 2 years, and that's a mixture of our match for primary, local roads, grant-funded federal projects, all of that. And then what we're in the process of doing now is preparing a resolution for the board. The process for issuing bonds would require public notice. So when we do that, we usually say, hey, this is the high end. It will not exceed $25 million, and then we'll continue to narrow that down based on affordability and as funding plans get more narrowed in, and then hopefully get that funding in place so that we can have a a better plan of attack for the roads in Calhoun County.
So this pace that Derek talked about over the last couple of years, 14%, you said, is that the same? You're going to maintain that pace or maybe get faster at it, do you think, based on this approach?
I would say at some point, right now we have a pretty high trajectory of growth, right? Because we all of a sudden have townships that have not had millages. All of a sudden they're ready to do all of their roads all at once. So we've got a pretty high trajectory of change. I think that it will level off, and hopefully we'll be more in a maintenance mode that, honestly should have been in place all along. Every few years you have to reseal the roads. If you keep up with the tree trimming and all of that, we should be in more of a maintenance mode. And once the funding increase over the next 5 years through 2021, who knows what will happen at the state level after that.
Right.
But once townships begin to have as part of their ongoing budget plans road funding, and once the county, does our part as well, then that partnership should create, we hope, a more steady budgeting process. And it may continue to require us to finance the long-term fixes and then leverage the low interest rates to repay that as we get that savings on the other end from less patching.
Well, I'm glad that you're seeing your increased payments from the state, because we're paying them now. I just renewed my license plate, and it's a difference from the year before. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the updates, and we'll stay in touch. And anytime you want to drop by, let us know.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
All right. Derek King, Kelly Scott, Calhoun County.